Hello there, and welcome to another interesting episode of the interview. Today, I'm delighted to have someone that is very, very special, and I will be introducing him in a jiffy. This is someone that is a household name in Nigeria, so I'm delighted to have Mr. Audu Maikori to join me on this episode of the interview. Let me go ahead and introduce my guest for today. Audu Maikori is an indigene of Jaba local government in Kaduna State, Nigeria. He trained as a lawyer in the University of Jos and afterwards served in various capacities as a lawyer before founding Chocolate City Group, where he has served as its CEO and is currently the president of this wonderful organization. Audu was once a judge in Nigerian Idol. Audu is a serial entrepreneur, hence his influence is far beyond the legal profession and the Chocolate City Group that he is well known for. Audu is an alum of the Sloan School of Management from the renowned Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He is a member of reputable local, national, and international organizations that are too numerous to count. In recognition of his work and contributions to humanity, Audu has received many local, national, and international awards. But aside from the legal profession and entrepreneurship, Audu is a public speaker and is a social activist. I'm so delighted to have you on the program today, Mr. Maikori.
Thanks, Seth. Very nice to be on the program. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we have quite a bit to talk about. I will just start by talking about entrepreneurship. You are a serial entrepreneur, and your entrepreneurial journey is fascinating. One of the questions you have frequently been asked on numerous interviews is what motivated you to make the leap from being a legal professional to entrepreneurship, specifically the music and entertainment industry. I don't want to go into that because you have been asked this question several times. Yeah. I want us to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship in general. Some people have argued that your upbringing in Lagos is one of the major factors that made you to dive into the entrepreneurial journey, a stride that is not very common among Southern Kaduna people. How will you respond to that?
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. Because my father and mother are from, in fact, I found out later that my father and my mother were sort of related, distant relatives. So I'm purely from Koi. My mother's from Koi, my father from Dura. So there's no extra influence. So I came up under those people. They taught me everything I know. And my mother was an entrepreneur. Indeed, she was more of the on-ground entrepreneur than even my father. Because if you look at the career path of my father, he was a lawyer, worked in the Ministry of Justice, and then moved to the private sector, worked in the bank. And it was a bit later on in his life that he started his first business, where he started his own bank with some other people called North South Bank. And I think that was in the late 80s, around that time, right? So that was sort of what he did there. But my mother was the entrepreneur. My mother was selling wrappers, gold. She was a supplier for Coca-Cola products, a major distributor for Coca-Cola products. She was also distributing like Life, like all these nutrients. Is a company called Herbalife that was distributing, natural herbs and things like that. She was a major distributor. So she was really the person that I learned a lot of these things from. So I maybe their exposure may have helped them to do so, because we moved to Lagos in 1981. And we lived there until maybe the 1996, 97 when we moved back to Kaduna. But I wouldn't say that, but there's no doubt that the environment helps, because you see, the thing about Lagos too is that Lagos is a place where people respect you for what you can do, and not necessarily because there's a name behind you. I mean, it helps to have a name, but what's the name without you doing anything yourself? While the typical Southern Kaduna person maybe is more involved in working in the ministry, doing a civil service job, and just getting a stable income. But interestingly enough, I think one of the things that helped me, although I entered entrepreneurship without knowing that I was entering entrepreneurship, because at early as the age of, I think 17, 18, I had started, at the age of 18 rather, I sold my first painting because I draw.
Hmm.
Actually, I'm a painter as well. So if you saw the initial shot, you'll see a piece of art behind me. Actually, I'll show you the piece of art. This is
Yeah.
one of my, I don't know if you can see this. This is one of my pieces.
Wow. You did that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. This is like what, but let me see if you can see. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
one. But yeah, I was blessed to come up with a family, from a family that encouraged us to be ourselves.
Hmm.
My father saw that I had a talent to draw and all those things, and he made sure that anything I needed with respect to that, we would get that.
Hmm.
So any interest we had as kids, my father would make sure, my mother would make sure that we got it. We're interested in sports. Oh, good. Enroll in Korea Club. Go to play lawn tennis. You know, my father himself was a table tennis player. I actually won the table tennis competition for young boys in 1987, something like that, at the age of 12, in the Korea Club across the board. But that's because my father created that environment where we went out and did things. He found out he wanted to do karate, so we went and gave us karate lessons. And he found out that we were interested in music because he was a big music fan as well. And he got us a keyboard and a music teacher as well. So just growing up in that environment where you are allowed to be yourself and to discover yourself, for me, is the biggest thing. And that was a function of what my father was and my mother, both of them, not necessarily because I grew up in Lagos, because I think I would have had the same thing if I lived in Kaduna with them or in another part of the world, maybe. But then again, who knows? But I wouldn't say that it's because I just moved to Lagos. I think it's because I moved to Lagos with parents who were way ahead of their peers in how they visioned the future.
Wow. Talking about your father, who has had a lot of influence on you, your father passed on this year. I just want to extend my condolences to you. How has that been for you?
It's been tough. I mean, it's not easy. You know, father is father. No matter how old you get, father is father. But I think what's amazing about it is that it just shows you how important parenting is. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it just shows you the value of parenting, and the influence on not just us. I mean, it was when he died we realized how many people he had touched. His burial was almost a carnival, and just the testimonies that we learned over. There's so many things we didn't even know that he was doing or that he had done that was revealed. But yeah, he lived a full life. He died at 78. And I guess that's your prayer. If you can live to 78, that's not bad at all, right?
Mhm.
So the testament of his greatness or his achievement can only be seen in retrospect. And I think that's something about life. Whatever we're doing now, it is still present continuous. When we die and when people look through what we've done, that is a true test of what your achievements are. So that's why for me it's about striving to do better and better, improving in as many ways as I can across my life. Yeah.
That's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have heard you emphasize the fact that entrepreneurship is all about service. Will you mind shedding more light on this concept of service to humanity?
Yeah, I think what entrepreneurship does more than any other thing is that it puts the power in your hand, but it puts responsibilities in your hand as well.
Hmm.
I'm a Christian, so many things I refer to is to the Bible, and when you read stories, and I just tell people that read it, even whether you're a Muslim or a Christian or not or a pagan, read the Bible. The life stories in the Bible are just amazing. Just take the principles behind them, you know. And when you look at what the greatest people who were renowned in the Bible were people who served. They're not people who were served.
Hmm.
So when you think about David served his nation. He killed a giant. He fought wars. He conquered territories. He escaped because of his belief. He was almost killed because he was such a good person. And he spent 15 years of his life leading other people in the wilderness, providing for them. Everything that had to do with them, he was the one going out to provide for them. Unfortunately, when you look at leadership today, leadership is about service. That is servitude, not service. So leaders are bosses, and they're the ones who take everything first before every other person. That's why today you find that in a place where you have a national assembly and when you have governors and presidents, they're taking the fat of the land instead of spreading that fat of the land among the people. So entrepreneurship is the opportunity to serve people through the skills that you may have for the greater good. And the best companies are companies that serve a real function and purpose for people to grow. So today we're talking because there's a company called StreamYard. Some entrepreneurs said, look, how do I create a platform so that people can talk seamlessly across time zones in a fluid way? That's what they did. So do you know how many hours, years it must have taken to build this platform?
Yeah.
Right? That's service, which is different from being somebody who is served. The servant or the king sits down and says, bring to me all these taxes, bring to me all these things so I can live well. While the leader says, how can I solve your problem? Because once you solve the people's problem, your problem also is solved. So for me, entrepreneurship is service. So for me, like even all the things I've done tons and tons of things that many people don't know. I've had companies that failed, I've had companies that were successful, I have companies that were successful ones and they're failing, and some that are failing and now they're successful. That's the journey. But what has always underpinned everything I've done is how can I leave the world a little better than I found it? And I find that if we can all do that in our small spheres of influence, the world will definitely be better than we found it. And that is legacy.
Yeah, that is very true. How I want you to talk a little bit about that. Still talking about the concept of service. You have a lot of graduates, for instance, in Nigeria that go to universities and colleges and graduate, and they are looking for employment. People don't have this concept of just use your gifts and talents and start somewhere. People will start talking about capital. They don't have capital. They don't have connections. They don't have this and that to connect. What will you say to people that think that way?
I think that I've never started a business with all the money in my bank. In fact, most businesses I've started have not had any real money right from the beginning. But I believe that the problem is about your mindset. Let's look at the Bible again, just for reference. He said, have you found a man diligent in his work? He shall stand before kings.
That's true.
Indeed, I dare say he will stand among kings. Right? You can stand before and you can stand among. But guess what? If you do your job very well, you will stand among kings because you're a king yourself. You understand? So the question then is, they didn't say that have you found a man who's got money in the bank? He shall stand before king. They didn't say, have you seen a man who's very rich and brilliant and successful? He will stand among kings. Maybe. But that's not what he's saying. He said a man or woman who's diligent in her work, meaning that you continuously keep doing what you're doing, rain or shine, happy or sad, easy or hard, you diligently continue. So diligence is a function of continuous improvement, right? And consistent in your task. A couple of things happen. When you do something for long enough, you become a professional.
That's true.
That's why you heard the 10-year rule of 14,000 or 100,000 hours by people like Malcolm Gladwell. When they say that when you do 10 years, that's why in law, you cannot become a judge until after 10 years post-call. Because there's the assumption that after 10 years, you have become a professional. That's why there's certain professions that they say you must be 10 years and above. There are certain jobs you will not get unless you spend 10 years and above, because there's the assumption, right, that after 10 years, you spend so much time in continuous pursuit of excellence, which is what diligence is, that you become a professional. Now, put yourself in the position of a king. If you're a king and you have resources, everything around you must be first class. You wouldn't buy the cheapest bed. You buy the best bed possible. You wouldn't buy the cheapest car. You buy the best car possible. You buy the best clothes possible, because you're what? A king. So when the king wants somebody to wash his clothes, he'll get the best washer of clothes to serve him. If you're diligent in clothing and washing your clothes, you're that guy who will stand before the king. Having created that relationship with the king, you now might become the king's friend. And if the king sees you as a friend, who gets all the contracts? You. So automatically you become rich.
That's so good. That's so powerful, a metaphor. Still talking about this entrepreneurship. You have been involved in a lot of entrepreneurial ventures. What has been the most fruitful and I will say most fulfilling of them all?
Um, I guess it has to be Chocolate City. It has to be Chocolate City, and the reason is quite simple: is because it is very, very interesting to see someone who was literally nobody become somebody, and knowing that you're part of that journey towards that person's success. I think that's quite critical because there are different things you can do that can impact people. The second thing is my legal career as well, just being able to help people to solve their legal problems. Because a lot of businesses today, especially in today's world, are around intellectual property. They're around understanding your rights and being able to negotiate things. It gives me joy to be able to negotiate the best terms for my client and to make sure that they have something that empowers them. And then the third thing I've been involved in is a lot of getting involved in social issues and issues that have to do with humanity, human rights, with abuses and violations, and just getting people to know what their rights are. And I think that for me, that is the purpose of life. It's not just about how much money you make, but I think it's much more how much impact you can make.
That is quite interesting. We'll be talking about a little bit later. We'll be talking about activism and talking about speaking up in defense of people, especially the marginalized and the subjugated members of society that you have been doing, that you have been very involved in, and. I want you to talk a little bit about the various ventures that you are currently involved in. For instance, I know that Chocolate City, not many people, I think, know that Chocolate City has these, different divisions. Many people know the Chocolate City group, the music aspect of it. Not many people know about the media and all these other things that you're doing. So what are some of the things that you are currently involved in? Yeah.
We own a company called CCX. CCX is a live music venue and restaurant. We opened one in Abuja about 2 years ago. And then we opened a second one in Lagos. And basically, it's a place where creative people can go in and do their events. Because you know that if you're a creative person, you need a space to perform, and people can come in and enjoy and pay and generate money. So we've created that place. And it's been quite an exciting journey. We're about 2 years into the business now. And we're at the verge of actually expanding the business and expanding across other parts outside Lagos and beyond. The second thing that we do is that we own a company called Being Creative. And Being Creative is an agency. And what we do is that we service clients, we do experiential events and marketing. Some of the clients that we work with include companies like Pernod Ricard, Budweiser, brands like Martell. We work with Accountability Lab, a bunch of different companies actually. And the idea is that we do several events to bring brands to the fans. So in 2019, we did over 100 activations as a company. This year, because of COVID, things didn't go. I mean, obviously there've been less activations, and with the second lockdown that's coming up, it's not been as great as it should have been. But still, what we've done is we've kind of pivoted and we're doing a lot of digital marketing. So we've partnered with a company out in the States that basically helps us do micro influencer marketing. So if you have a product, instead of paying millions and millions of naira to a big celebrity to help you promote it without getting the real conversion, what we do is that we're able to find micro influencers and basically work with them at a lower budget, but have a higher level of conversion. The other thing that we do also is that we work in music publishing. And what that means is that we're able to put the artists that we sign are able to be put into adverts and movies. So if you if you watch some of the Nigerian movies, The Wedding Party, you watch what's this, Bling Lake. There's a bunch of Nigerian TV programs. You probably hear Chocolate City Music or artists that we represent that you might not even know people that we work with. But we put those songs into that, and that generates revenue as well for the people. And then we look for global opportunities to expand the reach of the music. For example, last year, one of the artists that we worked with, this year, did over 80 million streams across platforms, and just being able to now create other remixes and working with other people in Morocco, in France, and different parts of the world. So expanding the reach of the original content to other places. And that is also a function of the partnership that we signed with Warner Music in last year. But the other thing that I'm also involved in is I have a firm now. It's called the IP Advisory, and what we do is we focus on advising companies and individuals around their copyright protections and trademarks and things like that. And I have a couple of partners that we work with. The company is based out in New York here. And then, I'm now also advising a couple of companies. A lot of what I do now is more advisory and just sitting down, helping companies to get in. So there's a company that I'm advising currently that's doing animation. There's another that's doing blockchain technology, and there's a third that now is involved in being able to bring. It's like a what's the word? It's like a Fiverr for Africa. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. So that's what I do. I mean, primarily what I'm focused on is making sure that where there's value to be added, I want to be part of that, especially if it resonates with my ideals.
Are you still the president of the Chocolate City Group?
No, I wasn't. I haven't been president since over 5 years. I don't know why that tag still comes up, and I think it should be. I'm the group CEO of the company, and the group CEO means I oversee 4 of the companies: the music label, the live music, the CCX, that is a restaurant and live music place, the agency, and also the publishing company. I'm basically the group CEO of the company. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And are you in the Chocolate City Group in partnership with Warner?
Yes. Last year we signed a strategic collaboration partnership with Warner Music, and there's about 1.5 years now since we signed that, and that has been able to help us expand our horizon and also help them to have insights and inroads into Nigeria as well. So we're basically the first company on the continent that's done that deal with the Warner. But we're glad because that's opened doors for many other people to begin to have those conversations and do the same thing. So we've always tried to be, ahead of people. We've always tried to do our own thing and not try to be like other people. And what we just set out from the beginning was to be our own thing. We didn't try to be like any other person. We just wanted to create a 360 company. And right from the beginning, it wasn't set up to be a record label. It was set up to be an entertainment company. So currently, one of the projects we're working on is there are 2 TV production we're working on. I don't want to talk about it too much because there's a lot of work that's happened since COVID launched. Since COVID came, everything got disrupted. So we got pushed back majorly because that production is a bit more difficult now. Yeah. But yeah, there are things that we're working on TV and the content space, which we believe that by 2022 should be up and running. So yeah.
Have you been able to produce any movie from the media aspect of?
No, we haven't. The movie project we're working on was in 2017, and if you recall that there was a lot of political stuff going on at the time. Which disrupted our ability to finish that. But I mean, in retrospect, it's great because what we're doing now is that we're taking from different tangents, and we've been able to kind of expand the reach and the collaborative powers of the project. And for me, that's one of the major things that I really harp on: partnerships. I'm a huge advocate for collaborations and partnerships because I think that there's the possibility, or rather, the opportunity to bake a bigger pie. Instead of doing a small pie and say, well, this is my pie, why not build a really huge pie that is our pie, but my piece is bigger than it would have been if it was just me doing it. And so that's what's happening now. And like I said, we're in the middle of some really great negotiations about TV content on an international level, actually. but we're still a bit far off because of the uncertainty around what COVID has done in disrupting a lot of things. So let's say it's a work in progress.
That's great. That's wonderful to know. You have said on several platforms that Richard Branson of the Virgin Group is your entrepreneurial, or at least one of your entrepreneurial role models.
Yeah.
And you were lucky to meet him a few years ago. My question is, what is it about Branson that endears him to you?
I think that Branson is one of those people that was the least likely to succeed, right? I think he was the least likely to succeed. And I think that, we look at people and then we either overestimate people or we underestimate people. Most times we underestimate people. And Branson was dyslexic. He was poor in school. So he wasn't like a genius in school. He was just a regular guy. But I think the fact that he wasn't able to achieve things academically drove him to be more stubborn and more focused on achieving things in the other way. And that kind of just helps to disprove any theory that tells you need to go to school to be successful. That's stories. You don't need to go to school to be successful. It helps. Education helps. Education has, because there are many billionaires that didn't finish school. Mark Zuckerberg didn't finish his university. Had basic education. Steve Jobs. The people who did the basic stuff, they didn't go out and read PhDs and things like that. Not necessarily. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just simply saying that success and failure is in the mind. Right? It's simple. And those who are able to prime their minds and keep being stubborn about what they're trying to achieve, they'll eventually crack it. And Richard Branson started off selling a paper route, to setting up a record label, to setting up a spaceship, to setting up one of the most successful enterprises in the world. And he's done so. And I recall that I was asking him during the talk, he was telling us that he had 400 companies. 400 companies. Wow. Like, how do you manage 400 companies? Wow. It's simple. I just find the best people and I trust them. And that shows you what? Partnership. Is that he couldn't have done it without, look at Virgin Mobile. Virgin Mobile was a partnership between the Virgin Group and a telco. Because it's an MVNO, it's a mobile virtual network operation. It's not a real network in the sense that you see an MTN, for example. Or it's basically a private company partnering now with MTN to create a sub-brand, right? That now becomes a mobile service. That's what he did with his network. Then he decided that, we need to have Funky Pink and create the Virgin Atlantic. So the idea is really get one thing right? And then begin to expand and exploit your brand. That's the key to success. And Jay-Z's followed the same model. Warren Buffett, same model. Steve Jobs, the same model. So it's really about you finding your sweet spot, getting really good at that, and then begin to look at how you can extend and expand your brand.
You said something that some people may consider a little bit controversial, this issue of, you don't necessarily have to go to school to succeed. You are a very educated person. I want you to talk a little bit about that, especially looking at what is going on currently in Nigeria. In the first place, to get to school is difficult, right? And people will strive to go to school and take account of all the strikes and all the things that people go through in colleges. After they graduate, they do the mandatory service, then they start looking for job and stuff like that, and you have a lot of unemployed people. People, to some extent, I don't know, will you say this is the traditional educational system is not really working very well for at least a lot of people?
So I understand why you might think what I said was controversial, but let me put it in context. You need a basic education.
Okay.
Everyone needs that because the world talks in English, right? So if you cannot speak English, it's a bit more difficult for you to scale your business. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying that it's not the professorial stuff or excessive degrees that actually make you successful. In fact, sometimes when you're too educated, there's confusion because there are too many options. Two,
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
you know,
Yeah.
I think in the story of Mark Zuckerberg, he had done a basic education, but remember that English is their first language. So it's different from for you when English is your first language as compared to when you come from somewhere where English isn't your first language, right? Because the world is in English mostly as at today.
Mm.
So you have more of a struggle. But I think the question is that what sort of education are we talking about? And when we say education, we mistake education as being a degree.
Yeah.
Every day I educate myself. Every day. I'm in my library now. I mean, I've got a bunch of books right across. I always have books. I'm always reading. That's education. Education is being able to read for yourself and to learn and to increase your capacity to deliver good service. That's education. Now, the education system in Nigeria has failed us totally. It's zero, it's crap. Somebody read computer engineering and doesn't has never seen a computer before. He's joking. However, there is an opportunity to flip that problem to an opportunity because now with the internet, people can learn things on YouTube. You
Mhm.
can go to Udemy. You can go to EDX. You can get courses that are absolutely free. It's never happened before in the history of the world. There's a disruption.
Mm.
So if you sit down and say, well, I can't afford to go to school, can you afford data? You know, that money that you're using to do Facebook and seeing what people are doing with their fake lives, do you think you can put that into your real life?
Mm.
Do you think I can download a course and learn, for example, project management skills? How do I manage the project? And that's what I'm saying that the basic education is important for you. You don't understand the terms that they're talking about. If not, you'll be lost. But let's even flip that. Let's even go lower. Let's go lower. Education is the consistent pursuit of knowledge and information, and the application of it is called wisdom.
Hmm.
Right?
Mhm.
And the Bible says, my son, seek wisdom. Is more precious than gold or silver. He says, sell your house and get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get wisdom. What does that mean? What does wisdom mean? And I pondered upon the word wisdom because, with the Bible, you have to think about the context, the nuances, and the applications, and also kind of update the meanings of what they were saying at the time to now. Wisdom was given to Solomon. But what was the wisdom? The wisdom was that he had a lot of information.
Hmm.
But apart from and he was constantly reading, he was surrounded by wise men. These wise men were scholars, people who read, who educated themselves. And these were the people that were his counselors, right? So when they came to him, he would listen to them, but the wisdom was how he applied the information that was given to him to a situation. Do you understand? And there's a bit of obviously there's common sense in it, but there's also clarity of thought and being able to simplify complex issues. So when we're talking about education, what we're saying today is that have a basic knowledge of being able to read, write. Very important because without that you might not go anywhere. But you can self-educate yourself. There are applications today. There's a guy called Sim Shagaya, the late Shagaya's son, who just raised some really good money earlier this year for a company called U Lesson, right? And what they're doing is they're teaching people all their curriculum on their phones,
Hmm.
right? And they raised $3.1 million earlier this year. And I think they're on their second round now. And it's so successful. They're now in the process of pulling out. Now, what that means is that your child can learn everything from home. So no more excuses.
Yeah.
The biggest lessons I learned in life were from my parents, not from school. The fundamentals of what I am is my father and my mother, not necessarily in school. But let's go to the East. The Igbo man learns how to trade. How does he learn how to trade? Is there a book? No. My son, you do this, you add this, you add this. When you do this, you do this. And there's a system. You will do 15 years. After 15 years, we give, that's it. After 15 years, I give you this and you can go. I give you your freedom. That person has been educated about buying and selling. Now, what he does with that information later is a function of how he applies the information, the experience. And that is what's called wisdom. So the constant pursuit of that is what makes you successful. So I think that we must flip the educational curriculum. And the last thing I want to say about education is this. We need an educational system that focuses on problem solving, not problem examination. Because what you have is a bunch of people who are trying to become civil servants, not people who are trying to solve problems. Nigeria needs people who will solve their problems. There's a problem. How can you solve it? You earn the money. Simple. Not pontificating about what the problem is and going on and on about it. That civil servant mentality where people say, oh, I really want a job in civil service. For what? So that I can close at 4 o'clock. So I'll do the minimal work and get the minimal pay and also get a permanent salary till I die. You will not be successful that way. Unless you're stealing money. You cannot be successful as a civil servant. That's true.
You made a very profound clarification about or between knowledge and also wisdom, which I think is very important. It is one thing for you to go to school and acquire knowledge or information, so to speak, but the application of the information is where people usually find it difficult. And it has been famously said that leaders are readers. And I know you to be an avid reader. You read a lot of books. What books are you currently reading?
Oh, so the book in front of me is called The Entrepreneur's Guide to Business Law. And it's a reference book. You keep reading that. The other book I'm reading now is called Hollywood Deal Making. A book called The Myth of the Strong Leader. Then I'm also reading, I read a lot of books at the same time. So I just, go back and forth. But I'm reading a book called Leadership Secrets from the Bible. And then the last book that I was reading, so that's my reading, but I have audiobooks I listen to as well at the same time. And nowadays, audiobooks are my lazy way of reading books because I have so much on my plate. But I'm reading the latest Obama book right now. Quite interesting. And then there's a couple other books that resonate with me. One is Deal Making 101. Then there's another book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Dash.
Yeah, I know.
It's a great book. It's a great book. And so those are the books I'm reading. Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I love reading too. I have listened to you. I've listened to a ton of your interviews online, and I kept hearing you not once on various platforms. You talked about Richard Branson, and that was how I became curious. I was actually reading. I had, I think, 5 books that I was reading at the time, but I said I haven't read this. Losing My Virginity, but since
have you read it?
no, I mean, at that point I said I haven't read it, but because I kept hearing you mentioning that, I just said that was going to be my next read. So currently, between today and tomorrow, I will be finishing that book, and it's quite interesting. Just reading it. You are one person I respect so much. So when you recommend a book, I will really love to check it out. So still talking about entrepreneurship. Should we be anticipating many more entrepreneurial surprises from you in the coming years?
Always. Till I die, I'll always be doing new things. I'll always be doing several things because I'm a creator, and we all are. We all are creators, and I think that I'm happiest when I'm doing. Now, this is counterintuitive, right? But I love doing several things at the same time. I'm not the kind of guy that can do one thing at a time. And of course, there's a problem with that too, right? Because you may end up being the jack of all trades, a master, maybe. But for me, it is in those ventures. It's in those, like we just launched a company. My wife just launched a company. It's called Vuvoi, VUVOI.com. And what we do is we're selling apparel. And what we're doing is licensing original artwork from people and putting them on t-shirts. That way, we're helping the artists to also expand their market and to make some extra money from apparel. But beyond that, it's just around how expressive t-shirts can be. You can print almost anything on a t-shirt, and people are looking for more customized type t-shirts that speak to them. Like, for example, if you had a t-shirt that said "I am Seth," as simple as that. When you go to an event, you don't have to introduce yourself. You're like, "I'm Seth." What's your name? I'm Seth or whatever. But seriously speaking, the idea really is, what are the problems? What are the problems? Do the problems mean something to me? Can I do something about it? What can I do? Okay, so who can I do it with? Is it worth my time? Yes. Let's go. The worst thing that happens is that you fail.
That's true.
But you don't really fail because you're learning something from that failure. There's a transaction I did a year and a half ago, or about 2 years ago, actually, that I made so many mistakes, and I was kicking myself. I still kick myself. Sometimes I wake up and kick myself, like, I'm always trying to. But when an opportunity came a few months ago for a similar transaction, I was a totally different guy. Do you understand? And this transaction is more important than the previous one anyway. So I've learned. I lost something to get a bigger thing later on. But if I hadn't failed then, imagine if I'd succeeded at the time. I didn't learn those basic lessons. Then I might have kept on missing bigger opportunities because I've not learned. So the biggest fear is failure. But there's nothing to fear in failure, because guess what? It's only if you have a big ego that you think you're too big to fail. Big people have failed before. Small people have failed before. Short people have failed before. Tall people fail. But it's how you wake up and say, you know what, I've learned my lesson. I won't do it again. So that is, for me, the thing. So, I mean, in terms of enterprise, I'm always excited to mentor people. I'm always happy to talk and advise people and give them strategic advice. I'm always happy to even be part of things that I believe in. And that won't stop. This year alone, I've been involved in probably 3 or 4 new ventures, and none of them are from Nigeria, by the way. And working with these companies and trying to build new opportunities. That's what makes me excited.
The entrepreneurial journey can be lonely and stressful. What tips can you give about surviving the loneliness and the stress of this journey of entrepreneurship?
Find a team. And even if the team is not in your house, maybe it's an advisory team. Maybe somebody who's done it before. Maybe somebody who you can at least vent to. And I have the opportunity. My wife is my partner. She knows everything that I do, every business that I do, and she's a partner in all my businesses as well. And she's my board. Like, I talk to her about my problems, and she gives me solutions sometimes. Sometimes she's just there. I mean, she can send me 4 articles. Let's say we talk about something, and send me my DM. Boom, boom, boom. Check this out. Basically giving me resources as well in the same way. So I think it's good to have somebody you can trust, and sometimes it's not somebody who has all the answers, but at least somebody who asks the right questions.
Yeah.
So that helps. The second thing about the journey of entrepreneurship, like, sometimes you have to pull back and think about what you're doing this for. Do you understand? You have to think about it. Like, when you think about, what am I doing this for? Is it just for my ego? Or is it just to make money? Or there's something bigger than this? Like, one of the things I really want to do is, at the right time, I do want to see how I can raise money to set up either a research center or set up some kind of place where people who have Alzheimer's can, especially in Nigeria, can find professional help. Because my father died of that. And I saw a brilliant man become, basically after a while, he could not even talk. And that is painful for any person. I don't know what, I mean, my stepmother, she went through hell. I can imagine what it means. I mean, me as a son, I can imagine what it is, but imagine that for your wife or for your husband, just seeing that deterioration. Somebody who was always lively, always very intelligent, very engaging, then all of a sudden they can't even do those things again. So the question is that, is it going to be easy? It's not going to be easy. I've started some conversations, and there's more work that needs to be done there. But the aim is that let no other person have to go through the same problems we had to do, understanding the terrain. There was nobody who we could really rely on in Nigeria. Let's fly my brother upon time, did all we could, send him back, and then begin to figure out how to take care of his meds. Just figuring that there was no expertise on ground. So let's say that's the business I want to do, right? I'm frustrated and there's no money and it's 3 years, nothing's happening. What keeps me in that business is that I know that one day somebody will benefit from this same thing. So and that's why we talk about social entrepreneurship. Is that a lot of business that we do have to mean something beyond just saying make money. It has to mean something. Is there a project we want to do in the village that will bring electricity to people so that people can read for the exams and pass? What can we do about that? So remember the why. Why are you doing this business? Because that helps you. And then in terms of times when things are very rough, there will always be those days. There will always be those days. There are many times I've thought of quitting, many, many times. I feel like, oh God, I can't do this anymore. And you're almost at a point because you're frustrated, things are going, especially when you work in a place like Nigeria, where today your cost of business can rise by 100% in 1 hour. If you're doing business and you find out that you're buying dollars at 386 naira and then tomorrow is 500 naira, how are you going to make up that difference? What is a recession? When there's no electricity, when there's insecurity, there's so many problems. Then to compound that, there's an economic problem that you have as well. So I think the key thing is this, is that you need to have people, resources, and a remembrance of what you're there for, because that's what keeps you grounded.
That's true.
Because the best jobs are the jobs that you are doing. And yeah, it's good that you're making money, but you might not always do it for money. Sometimes you're doing it because you're trying to elevate something. You're trying to create a platform for other people. Sometimes you're trying to plant a vineyard for the next person who's going to make wine from it. You might not even taste the grapes, but there's a fulfillment about doing that.
That's so powerful. I want us to kind of switch gears to talk about activism and politics. You are very passionate about social justice and political accountability, and you have never shied away from lending your voice in this direction. For instance, in 2010, you actively participated in the Enough is Enough protest for accountability and good governance. And in 2017, you were arrested and arraigned by Kaduna State over alleged incitement of violence. My first question to you is, do you think Nigerian politicians see activists or activism as a threat to their survival?
So first of all, I don't consider myself an activist.
Okay.
I'm described as that. I'm just a passionate Nigerian that does not like injustice, right? I'm just someone who's always, I try to speak my truth as much as possible. So I don't want to seem like I'm just this professional activist. I'm not a professional activist. I'm just someone who, by virtue of the responsibilities and the things that I've seen, I think it behooves people like us to speak out, because people look up to us for some kind of direction. And so when we speak really not from political sides. We speak because of humanity. What happened in Kaduna, what's been happening in Kaduna, now largely around the country, is sad. But in a sense, I'm happy it's happening. Because when we talked about it, people thought it was just about politics or we're just trying to be regionalist. But I keep saying this, that if one of us is not safe, none of us are safe. And that's what's happening today. 320 people, kids were kidnapped. They didn't care whether they're Muslim, Christians, or from one place. They kidnapped all of them. And that could have been the story. Look at the Leah Shaibu, sorry, and the people in Boko Haram. Look at what happened in southern Kaduna. Thousands of people have been killed. Look at what's happening even in Zaria, the Shia. There's so many cases of people, and nobody cares about your religion, your age, your sex, your height at that point in time. So you can't sit down and pretend that it's not happening. You can't. Because even if you say it's not happened to you, how about other people? So it's only a foolish man that thinks that by closing his door when the neighborhood is unsafe, he is safe. You're not. It's a matter of time they'll come to you. So we have to all understand that we are all activists by force. We have to be activists, or else what we have is going to go. So that's sort of like the first thing I would say. But I think the real issue is that the current government in Nigeria has always been intolerant of public outcries about anything. There's always a mix of it's fake news. There's always the mix of it's opposition. There's always the accusation that they're just people, they're naysayers. But the facts speak for themselves. Simple. Today, the poor policies of the government have led to a huge recession again, the second recession in 5 years. The insecurity is at its highest ever. Unemployment is at its highest ever. Last week, I saw that the inflation rate had risen to 14 point something percent. Then we have the dollar fluctuation. Then we have the lack of electricity, which obviously affects industries and manufacturing. Then we have the rise in the price of petrol, which affects transportation costs for people. Somebody was saying that a mudu of rice was 23,000 naira. Not a bag of rice. No, a mudu of rice was 2,000, or gari was 2,000 naira, something like that. I can't remember what it was. I could not believe it. So the question is that, what do we do? Do we keep quiet? Do we just keep quiet? Or do we do something about it?
Yeah.
If you see what happened in the US, the people spoke up, but yet almost half the population voted the same person back in power. It's only, by the constant conversations, the activists, the people who called out the injustice, that people decided that, look, you know what, enough is enough. We need to go back to a system that works. And that's why we are in Nigeria today. We can fool ourselves, but our leaders are not leaders. They are rulers. And like I told you, if you're thinking about service, the question should be this: Mr. Lawmaker, Mr. Governor, Mr. President, what is the most important thing you need to focus on today? Today, what is the most important thing? Is it how many cars you have in your convoy? Is it how much extra code you have for traveling? Or is it about the contracts that you're giving to your cronies? The biggest problem is not that. The biggest problem is that your people are impoverished. They are hungry. And what they need is opportunities to feed themselves, not to be fed. Because it's not sustainable. So when you hear policies like saying, government said they're giving someone money, that's good to know. But are they generating anything out of that? If nothing's been generated, look at what they did in the US. They gave a stimulus package, right? And gave some money to everyone and said, look, go spend. Because when you spend yourself out of a recession. In what social safety nets do we have in Nigeria today? Nothing. So we must all be activists, not because it's our profession, but because it is what has to happen if we want to see any sort of change. In 2 years' time, we're going to be geared up for elections. Who are the people you're going to select? The same old money bags who have ignored you in your hunger? Or are you looking for people who actually are looking for solutions that will put money in your pocket on a regular basis and not one-off? So, yes, we're activists, but we are activists because we have no other choice. I'd rather be an entrepreneur doing what I need to do. But how can you even be an entrepreneur when taxes are so high? No electricity. Your business is going to fail anyway. Do you understand? So if we think to ourselves that politics isn't important, we are fools. I repeat, we are fools. Politics affects everything.
That's true.
What you go to is a politician that says, I'm doing a curfew. And guess what happens? You stay at home. It's a politician that says, I'm going to open new factories and let investors come and open factories so we can create 4,000 jobs. It affects you. It's a politician that says we're going to cut down the taxes for 4 months because there's hunger. In the US, you know that at the peak of the pandemic, rent was suspended for many companies.
That's
You stop collecting rent. In Nigeria, did anything happen? No. There was no social safety net. Nobody, and the government could have made a law and said, look, you know what? Stop charging this, or we're going to cut down the price of transportation to 50% so that people can transport themselves. There are things you can do. So if you say that you don't care who's the governor or the president or the councillor or the chairman, those policies that they're doing affect you directly. So you must get involved. So one of the things that I'm involved in most currently is getting people to understand their rights and educate and political education, so people can actually now begin to guard their vote. Because if Nigeria is better, it's all better for all of us. Nobody benefits from a bad Nigeria if you're a citizen at least. So that's my position.
What do you make of the NSAS protest?
I don't know. I'm tired of talking about NSAS, to be honest, because and the reason why is that I think there's a lot of excitement about not that much. This is not the first time Nigerians have protested. This was probably the most brutal, which reflects to you the kind of administration that you have in the first place. But it's not the first time. And I've been part of several of these things, even as a student and up till now. It is great that it happened, but I don't think we should think that is a landmark achievement. It's not. I was on a panel the other day and we were talking with a friend of mine. She's from Sudan. And she was telling us that the Arab Spring, is it the Arab Spring? That's a Sudanese thing. I don't know what the popular name is. I think it's the Arab Spring they call it. But in Sudan, they were at war with the government for 12 months. They were rioting in protest for 12 months. 3,000 plus people died.
Wow.
People were arrested. Phone calls were blocked. Cellular networks were not working well. They're being monitored. But they held on fast until the man was toppled. So when we talk about NSAS, the fact that it lasted less than a month, it had a global impact, which is fantastic, is that there needs to be several others of these things for them to make sense. Unfortunately, after the stance of the government, people will do so at their own risk. And obviously, nobody wants to die. But I'm saying that there's a lot more work to do. And we can end SARS not just by protesting in the streets, but protesting in the things that we do in our offices, in the ways that we approach things in life. So it's good to know that the young, and the beauty of NSAS really that is a younger demographic that did it. That's the beauty of it. The beauty of it was that it was organic, but it should have led to some clear points. And that is a process of learning and failing. The next one will be bigger and better. The next one will be more organized because they learned from the first one. So we must encourage it, but I'm saying let's not feel that, let's not rest on our ours. Let's stop thinking that we've achieved something. No, it's just the beginning. There needs to be more of these things so that leaders will understand that they report to us. We don't report to them. That's the problem. They feel that they are our kings. They don't understand that we are the kingmakers. The kingmaker, it has to be respected because he can take the king away and appoint another king. So, yeah, those are my thoughts as well.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it in passing. You are from Southern Kaduna, and there have been these incessant killings and all kinds of things and kidnappings. Will you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Southern Kaduna issue has been something that was swept under the carpet for a long time. It's been happening over the past few years, but it really, really escalated in 2016, where thousands were killed. And what people were upset about was that there was no communication from the government. And there was no empathy. But it's interesting to see that in 2020, that same situation has happened across the country as well. No empathy from the government. In Adamawa, in Taraba, in Borno, right? In Kaduna, in Benue, in Plateau. They've happened several times, and there's no real course of action from the government. In Southern Kaduna's case, one of the things that I think is very controversial and people don't like is the fact that there's this narrative that it's fighting over land, that is about a settler and people coming in and fighting over land. And I say that in law, possession is 2/3 of the law, right? That's what it says. Possession is 90% of the law, as they say. If I've been living, I'm from Jaba local government. My mother is the Pope Ham's last born, same father, same mother. So I have that. I'm from that side of it. And my father, Maikori, actually means, you know what Maikori means? It means is a quiver full of arrows. My ancestors were blacksmiths. And blacksmiths mean what? People who used to make arms and ammunition. They were arms dealers. Right? That's what they were. And my father used to tell me that even the Pope could not just summon the Kori like that. Do you understand? He could not come. No. It had to be, please, can you come and see me? Because he was the person who controlled the arms. They made knives and weapons and all those things. They're the ones who used to create those things. And this dates back to thousands of years. Carbon dating shows that the people in that North Terracotta area and that whole part, right, were there for 2,500 years before Christ. And if you see the North Terracottas and you see our people, you see that there's a resemblance. It's the same people. They've not left that place. So when you tell me that somebody that came in 20, 30 years ago is trying to claim the land that's been there for 4,000 years, like carbon dating has showed, is an insult. And that's why we need to understand our history, who we are. Southern Kaduna people should be the most revered people in Nigeria because we're the oldest sub-Saharan civilization. Not Nigeria, sub-Saharan. What do we get? We're treated like second-hand citizens simply because people have, and this has been going on for years and years. It's not just this administration. It's been happening for years. But it's been managed in a sense, it's been back and forth. And here we are now being told blatantly that, some people that are moving around, some people who are nomadic by nature have a claim to our land. It's not true. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's pathetic and uncalled for. Do you have any political aspirations? For instance, should we anticipate seeing you becoming a senator, a governor of Kaduna State, or possibly the president of Nigeria in the nearest future?
I hear that. I've heard this so many. That's why I was laughing because people were like, "You sure you want to run for something?" No, you sure? And I think that even with what happened in 2017 with my arrest, that's what the people thought. They thought I was trying to do something for political aspirations, and it was not. In fact, one of my friends, when he was close. He's close to the governor, and he was saying, "Are you sure you're not trying to?" And I said, "No. I've always spoken up about injustice. This is not the first time, or the second time, or the third time. And it won't be the last time, right? I've always just felt that we can't sit down and allow people who don't have a voice. And once we have a voice, we speak. And for me, this is sort of where I'm disappointed with the elected representatives we have in Southern Kaduna, especially. The truth is, if you are either in the National or the State House of Assembly, if you are in any position, the world should be hearing from you directly on a global basis about what's going on with your people. That's why we represented you. Well, that's why we asked you. We said representative, meaning that you say what you're the one who's standing for us. I have not heard anything tangible. Honestly speaking, I've heard one or two people, but it's not as loud and as consistent as it should be for people who are representatives. So my focus right now is saying, how can we get better representation on a national and a state level and a local government level? And that means mobilizing people. If at some point in time I'm called to do something, I may consider it, but not likely. Because it's not just about being the front lines that is the change. It's good, but how many senators have we had? How many governors have we had? Or how many deputy governors have we had? What change did that people see? There's no real change. Let's be honest. How many ministers have we had? What real change did we see in our area? So I think it's really about us. It has to be a mass movement. It has to be us. many of us coming together and trying to fix things. So right now, that's not my focus.
Okay.
My focus is really making sure that we get the right people to begin to make the right choices and to protect the legacy and the vote that the people have given them.
Yeah, it's good you clarified that it's not your focus right now, but it's not something that you have closed your mind to. So we'll just take that into cognizance. I want us to wrap it up by just talking about briefly by talking about the entertainment industry in Nigeria and by and large in Africa. You are well known in the entertainment industry in Nigeria, in Africa, and in the world. What is the future of entertainment in Nigeria? Are you impressed by the music and movie industries?
Yeah, I think we're doing great in music. I think that there's a lot more work to do with the infrastructure that's missing, which has to do with one, the policies the government spins out. Again, leadership. Which has to do with support the government gives out. Again, leadership. But also has to do with what we're lobbying for, as private sectors, private individuals as a private sector so as well. Again, leadership. The right leaders have the right conversations with the right leaders to bring change to their followers. And I think that, I've been involved in quite a few of those things. I've served in several boards, either on the Copyright Society, trying to chair the Digital Rights Management Committee. I put together something called Music Week Nigeria this year, we had 4 days of conferences. We did about 16 panels. And we had everyone from the Minister of Culture and Tourism to the DG of Tourism, Folarin Kuka. We had the DG of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council. We had stars like Yemi Alade, Mr. Easy, a bunch of all these guys who are in the front and center. We had the CEOs of the Maven Group, all the top labels, and even we did something around the TV, and we had talks with Bank of Industry. So, and the idea really was to bring together, bring to light the issues that the entertainment industry is facing, and how we can expand that. Because we believe that the entertainment industry alone can feed a minimum can create at least 1 million jobs. Minimum 1 million jobs. And imagine if you have 1 million jobs in Nigeria today. Imagine what that does. How many people it lifts out of poverty. But there's a lot of work to do. For example, in the actual training of people, many of the people that are doing this business were not trained. They learned on the job. Imagine how much more better they would be if they had training. So the conversation around training schools. There's a project that we did with Lagos Business School this year as well. And we brought in a virtual cohort for the MBA class from different universities around the world, and we did a virtual tour of Chocolate City. And we just talking about it. And we also were in a panel where we selected people to do certain things, and then we're collaborating with them. Excuse me. And then just last month as well, we did a partnership with Bez Idakula. I don't know who Bez Idakula is a renowned musician at Plateau State, and he partnered with CC Hub, which is the premier tech incubator in Nigeria. It's a company that Mark Zuckerberg first came to when he came to Nigeria. So they've created huge, really successful companies in that time. Wow. And what we did was we were creating a solution for royalty collection. So there's a judging panel, and I was one of the judges on that, and we were able to kind of find a few companies that want to invest in and help to scale to be able to do business. So there's a lot to do, but I think we're on the right path. I think that the music is global. I think that there's a lot of recognition, and I think that it can only get bigger and bigger. But we need more resources. We need more local investments in the industry.
That's great. Lastly, I just want to ask you, what should we be looking out for from the Chocolate City Group in the next coming years?
So there's a lot that is happening. Even right now we had a year of reform and reinvention because COVID basically disrupted our business model, and many companies were disrupted as well. So we're actually in deep restructuring mode. We can be more competitive with the industry and with the realities of how money is being made. But I think the beauty of it is that we're also in the right conversations with different people. And new leadership is emerging. For next year, I won't be active again as CEO of the company, even on the group level. I'll be taking more of a vice chairman type position and looking and because the idea is also to bring new leaders and give them the opportunity to also run their own visions. And having done that for 4 years now, it is time to also move so that more people can emerge. And I think that this is really important, just to always bleed the pipes so that there can be more viscosity, more flow going out. So I mean, you will see the things I can't really talk about clearly because they're still in the works. But beyond Chocolate City, there are also the multinational partnerships we've closed, and some that will close early in the first quarter. So just watch out; you'll see a few things. But the truth too is that we're also kind of reinventing the brand. So there's certain things that you see. There are brands, but you won't know they're ours. Because that is the whole aim of reinventing yourself. That the partnership, the companies that we have stakes in that you do not know that we have, because that is a business model as well. So there are quite a few things that we'll be doing as a group, but using our subs instead of just directly the group itself.
Wow, it's been a very fruitful time having you. It's a great privilege having you to agree to come on this program. You, despite your busy schedule. So I really appreciate you for taking time to come. And thank you so much for those of you that participated. I didn't see a lot of comments. I saw just a few, but nobody asked any specific question. That shows that you kind of answered all the questions that people would have preempted. So thank you so much for making time to be part of this. It means a lot to me. And I will keep the conversation. We keep the conversation going. And for viewers, I also want to thank you for being part of the interview today. Watch out for other episodes. This is actually the last episode for this year or for season 1 of the interview. We'll be coming back sometime in January to continue to bring different guests to be part of this program. Bye for now, and compliments of the season. Enjoy your Christmas and Happy New Year in advance. Bye-bye.
Bye.